Welcome in, everyone. You're listening to Bulls Central. I am joined with me today by yet again another very special guest. You know, I have Matt Peck on recently, and of course, I had to bring on his partner in crime, also formerly Bulls Outsiders, also formerly Locked On Bulls. He's the host of the Bow on Bulls podcast. Make sure you say it right. And one of the hosts of the CHGO podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show, Big Dave of CHGO. Dave, how are you, my man? Appreciate you making the time.
Well, you know, it's always a good thing to come on and talk to you and see you and chop it up with you. And yeah, it's just always good to see you, man. You know what I mean?
Of
like
course,
it's a good thing. You know, I love what you do. I say that every time I see you because it's true. You know what I mean? I really do enjoy what you do, man. You're such an intelligent basketball mind. And I learn a lot.
I appreciate that, man. Hey, you guys have been doing some great work at CHGO, which, you know, make sure, guys, by the way, I'm going to leave a link in the description to the actual CHGO podcast, as well as the Bow on Bulls podcast, because you guys are in the middle of the tournament of trash, right?
Yes. In the middle of tournament of trash, we are doing the worst on-court moments for the Chicago Bulls, barring injury. We're not using any injury because we know what number one is if we do injuries, and that would be depressing. So we're not even going to do that. So
injuries is not something you can control, right? And it's
no, not at all.
Chucking up a 40-foot, three-pointer.
Yes,
that's something that can be kind of controlled, right?
Yes, correct.
But no, I appreciate that, man. Now, if you're not already, do yourself a favor, give Dave a follow here on Twitter at Bow Sports. Like I said, you got to check out the CHGO podcast. I'll leave a link to all those in the description. If you're a Bulls degenerate fan like myself and can't get enough Bulls content, these are two great places to do it. So anyway, Big Dave, we're in the midst of the offseason. We've got a little less than 2 months to go before the start of the regular season. I think, as Matt called it on one of your recent pods, it's the deadest of the dead period in the NBA. But then we were recently rewarded with some material in the NBA world to discuss, thanks to, in my opinion, the greatest player, not the greatest player of all time, the best player in the league right now, in Giannis Antetokounmpo, when he just simply made mention of the fact that, hey, maybe one day I'll play for Chicago. You had Bulls fans going crazy, including myself. We're getting Giannis. People are photoshopping Giannis in Bulls jerseys, getting in debates with Buck fans about how he's going to be a Bull. I think it's always good to manage expectations with something like this. But what was your reaction when you heard Giannis making these comments?
It didn't seem real. It felt staged to me. I said to Matt on the show, I said at any moment, I was expecting him to say live from New York, it's Saturday night. Like it didn't feel real. It just felt like a skit. It felt like something planned. I saw Lou Canellis, who's based here in Chicago, who does Fox 32, was the one who asked him the question, and that's who he was responding to.
Right.
But it just didn't make sense to me. Maybe he was putting more eyes, on what the wonderful thing he was even having the press conference for. So maybe that's what it was, but maybe it was getting the Bucks to say, hey, you know what I mean? Hey, you know what I mean? I could still do this. I'm going to still need a check, guys. You still need to pay me. So, I mean, it was weird. That's the best thing I'll say. And the compliment I can give it is nobody really is talking about it. After it happened about that one time, that was kind of it. Like, it didn't even stay that long. So that kind of let me know that maybe it's not as real as people might think it is. But he said it. He put it out there. So if Bulls fans want to run with it, I'm not here to stomp on none of your joy. Please run all the way with it. Yell at all Bucks fans if you want to, because you actually have proof that he said he wouldn't mind playing for the hometown team. So yeah, it's a thing. And I think also for me, Maul, it was also more validation of why Jordan is the greatest player ever, because he never mentioned anything about the current Bulls, about why he wants to play there. Didn't say one thing about it. He just was like, yep, Michael Jordan, championships. Yes, that's why who doesn't want to go there for Michael Jordan championship. So yeah, man, like it was all. So I have fun with it. I hope Bulls fans do too. And yeah, but it didn't seem real to me.
I like that you said it didn't seem real, because when I first saw it, and it's kind of like all happening, I think it was Sunday night when it came out, I thought it was like a commercial. The way that it looked, like it was like, oh, it's like because they didn't show the person asking the question, right? They just showed Giannis answering this, and they even already had like the images of Michael Jordan doing the layup again the Lakers in the finals. And I was like, so is he doing like a commercial here? What's going on here? Like you said, it almost seemed like it was scripted. But here's my thing, and I've talked about this on my channel recently. Is further back is almost a year ago, but What honestly surprises me is, given how iconic this franchise is, like you mentioned, because of Michael Jordan, because let's be clear, this franchise would not be iconic if it wasn't for Michael. But because of Michael Jordan, and the fact that he had anyone growing up in the 90s, you wanted to be like Mike. So many people who never even, were into basketball became Bulls fans because of Michael Jordan. Current and past NBA players grew up watching MJ and wanted to be like him. It surprises me that you haven't seen that many NBA players, I mean like star level players, talking about how they would want to actually join the Chicago Bulls, right? You haven't seen NBA players express that want or desire to play for the Bulls, that they would want to be that guy that follows in MJ's footsteps, that they want to be that guy that plays for this iconic franchise that they maybe followed growing up. I guess that was sort of the surprising thing to me, always seeing that. And then now you had Giannis, again, in my opinion, the best player in the league right now, saying, yeah, I actually maybe would want to play for this team because they had the greatest player of all time, because they're such an iconic franchise. I mean, he's likely going to remain with Milwaukee as long as he's in prime, but it's the fact that you now have a superstar level players talking about the Chicago Bulls in this manner that can actually get other players who maybe grew up idolizing MJ and think, you know what? It would be kind of an incredible feeling to bring a championship back to Chicago, the first since Michael Jordan. Am I delusional in this thinking, or does this actually mean more than people think? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that Giannis is going to come, but it's the fact that there's maybe better recognition now from star level players, because DeMar DeRozan said the same thing on Draymond Green's podcast.
He did.
Does it mean more than what it maybe meant before? I don't know.
That's a very good point. And I think also I'll throw in the fact that, he's international on top of that. And the Bulls are colossal internationally.
Right.
So I think it has more meaning to them also, coming from there. You can talk to AK and he'll tell you the same thing about what the Bulls meant to him, you know what I mean? And how big of a deal it was for him to even, take this job, because how much love he has for Jordan and the organization and the 6 championships and all the things he watched. And even going down to The Last Dance, where he was going to hire Mark Eversley, but said he didn't even want to wait because he watched an episode of The Last Dance and got so excited. He called him that night and said, yeah, you got the job. Let's go get started. So like, it's stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I think international has something to do with that as well. But you're right. It was good to hear DeMar say that also, because I think he probably, because he, like he said on that podcast, he felt it when he was in that stadium and he took that air ball. I was at that game. Matt and I were at that game. And he's right.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. The air just kind of went out because we were yelling and hyping, and I'm high-fiving everybody around me, and because the comeback was on and it was great, and it was just the air ball. It wasn't even a miss. It was an air ball. You know what I'm saying? And you just felt the air kind of go out the building because of that. And he's right. It did. You know what I mean? And it kind of pushed him and let him like, yo, man, this is us. This is Chicago, man. Like, we are used to a certain standard, you know what I'm saying, of greatness, you know what I mean? Not goodness, but greatness. We're used to it. And so for him to acknowledge that was a big deal, you know what I'm saying? Because it lets you know that he's taking this very, very seriously. But also, Maul, it's good to hear the Bulls be mentioned positively, you know what I'm saying? Because we have the
NBA, right?
Yes, man. Like, it's, hey, meaning it or not, it was mentioned positively. By as you say, the greatest player in the league right now, mentioning the Bulls in a positive way, saying how much he would love to play for this team, because it hasn't been that way for a long while here. And so for him to say that and put us up there and continue to elevate us, like, that's a big deal too. You know what I mean? Because that's what we're used to, at least me. Like, that's what I'm used to. I'm used to people wanting to come here and used to people wanting to play here. And be on this franchise because of who is here and who the players that we have here. You know what I mean? Like, it's been weird. Probably starting, I guess, after, how Mike left is when it kind of started, but it kind of rekindled when Derrick Rose got here. Players started having that thought, like, maybe I would like to play with that team, like that. Like, we started, even if Carlos Boozer, it's still a name. Paul Gasol took less money, you know what I mean, just to come over here and play. So yeah, you started seeing that kind of thing happen, but I'm not saying we're the Lakers or we're the Heat or anything like that, but just to be mentioned like that, it felt good, and it's a positive thing for sure.
Yeah. Pie in the sky delusions aside, let's talk about the Bulls offseason and what we actually have, right? The Bulls signed Andre Drummond, Goran Dragic, re-signed Zach Lavine, Derek Jones Jr. What's been the biggest surprise of the offseason thus far for you?
Wow, the biggest surprise for the Bulls of the offseason, probably Dalen Terry for me. I've watched so much of him because I got to go to Summer League and sit up close and watch Dalen Terry. When he got drafted, our guy Will Gottlieb had him number 3 on his Bulls draft board of who he wanted drafted. He had him number 3. I didn't have him on my radar at all. So it was all new to me, like seeing about him. And when I watched him, I was like, okay, well, he looks like a guy that likes to pass. He's unselfish. He's fiery. He's got that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, all right, that can work. You know what I mean? I can see what that can be. And then when I heard him talk, that's when I started saying, wait a minute. and I started getting him when the fire which he spoke. Yeah. When he said, I didn't want to go anywhere else. This is where I wanted to be. We just talked about this, about guys wanting to be here. See, I didn't want to go anywhere else. I wanted to go to Chicago. This is exactly the place I wanted to be. When he talked about the number 25, when I saw him have on that number 25, my first question in my brain was, I wonder if he knows the significance of that number here in Chicago, because that belonged to Benji Wilson. And that was a big deal. Yeah. And then when he said, yeah, my uncle went to school with him. And that's the reason I'm wearing this number. Yes, he admitted it. He said, yeah, that's the reason I wear this number. He was like, because my uncle talked about him all the time. He was like, and so that's the reason I'm wearing 25 as an homage to him, and also a nod to Steve Kerr, who also went to Arizona. Right. So yeah, I was like, oh, yes. I was like, he gets this. Like, this kid is getting it. Bet. When I was there, Marvin, I was at that Summer League, and I'm sitting on that court, and they were playing the Knicks. And, the Knicks were just destroying them. Knicks were killing the Bulls that game. I'm watching Dalen Terry, and he looks at the Bulls bench with disgust. And he just immediately starts chewing them out. How come ain't nobody talking? Why ain't nobody saying nothing? Why y'all dead over there? We can talk too. They talking. Why can't y'all talk? Let's go. And I wish you could have saw my face. It was like the Emperor from Star Wars, man. I was like, excellent, good. I was like, this is it. I was like, this is what I want. He's the culture of the team. Yeah. That's what I see when I see him. The Bulls don't have this kind of guy. Everybody's a nice guy, chill guy, which is nothing wrong with that. But that's just everybody's kind of personality. Right. He's not that. He's that fire. And then I realized in Two Birds with One Stone, he's kind of going to be the guy that will push Patrick Williams. Like, he's going to be that fire to Patrick Williams ice, if you want to use it like that. Like, they already talked about how they were going at it in practice. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be the one holding him accountable in his face, the first one off the bench, chest bumping him when he does something nice. You know what I mean? He's going to be the one yelling, getting everybody involved, making sure they're involved in the game, man, because that moment kind of matters. On top of that, while actually getting better at basketball, because the dude can hoop. Like, he's good. He's got great vision. I love his IQ on the court. He doesn't believe he can't do anything. He thinks he really can do everything on the floor. He just has to learn it. I got a chance to speak with him briefly down in Summer League. Oh, nice. Talked about that talked about the Ben Wilson number with his uncle, and I just let him know how cool that was and how important that was. And he was just saying how happy he was to be here in Chicago, man. And he was just ready to get excited. And then I was like, man, dude, you're going to be awesome for the team, bro. I promise you're going to be awesome. So I would say that's my surprise, is because I didn't expect it that early, from him. So I didn't expect
the surprise not necessarily being the pick itself, more so the attitude and the demeanor for which he has, and already just being a rookie, he hasn't even started playing in an NBA game yet.
Exactly.
I completely agree. I mean, that was sort of the thing that stood out to me the most, because I, like you, not familiar with Dalen Terry at all. He wasn't on my radar at all. I didn't think that he was going to be selected that high. And that was the thing that jumped out to me. It was like, we really need a guy like a Joakim Noah. Not saying that he's, like a Joakim Noah in terms of play style, but that energy, that guy that's like, when the team is not focused, they're getting their heads down, a guy that kind of whips them back into shape. And maybe that's going to take some time, right? Because it's like, how much are guys going to actually listen to a rookie? Sure. I think that they will, because you can tell people already have respect for the guy and how he's already shown up thus far.
Mhm.
But we need players like that on the Bulls, right? It's like we need these guys that are gonna like yell at people, not yell, not like be like
Yeah.
berating people or anything like that,
No,
but
no, 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 no.
motivating the guys to play
Correct.
at the highest level possible. Like you said, we got a lot of nice guys on the team, right? And so you need that energizer. You need that guy that's gonna corral everyone together when things maybe aren't going that well. So that's why I love the pickup. I'm curious to see how much time he's actually going to get play, how he's going to, actually fit into the Bulls rotation,
Yeah.
just given everything they have on this roster right now. I am curious though, what do you think was the biggest missed opportunity so far this offseason? Because I think, we all expected the Bulls to really focus on rounding out this roster, adding depth in the front court. Mark Eversley specifically emphasized the need for rim protection to pair along with Vucevic. You saw a lot of potential options that could have been addressed for some of those needs as it relates to size, rim protection, and shooting that ended up signing with other teams, some of which were at affordable deals that the Bulls could have pulled off given their cap space. What was a missed opportunity that could have been a big pickup for the Bulls in your view?
That right there, what you said, getting somebody for that rim protection. I was big on Mitchell Robinson. I loved him. You know what I'm saying, out of New York. And I believe his deal was he's getting $20 million a year, for 4 years, I believe, or 3 years or something like that. So maybe that was a bit too much, just to give a guy to come off your bench and be your backup center. But you get somebody like that, and that's writing on the wall kind of thing for Vooch. That's what that is. You know what I mean? That's really writing on the wall. You don't pay somebody that much money and then tell them, you're just going to be on the bench for the next few years. That's not how that's going to go. So I get that, you know what I mean? But it was just the fact that they didn't get anyone, for that, to that rim protection. That kind of surprised me because they highlighted it as something that they know they needed. And the fact that they didn't run out and try to get it kind of surprised me. That and 3-point shooting. Yeah, those two things kind of surprised me, because the rim protecting is tough to get, but 3-point shooting, guys, a lot of those guys, out here in the league to get. Maybe it just wasn't one available for them. You could probably speak to it more than I could about who was available for that, but it was just surprising to me because AK and Mark Eversley, whatever they have said they wanted to do, they have honestly done it or have seriously tried to do it. I'm not saying they didn't put the effort in to try to get, a guy like that, who can shoot threes, a guy who, protect that in the paint, protect at the rim. But it just it felt different this time. I didn't feel the aggressiveness of going after, those two things. It felt like they kind of sat back and chilled, and surveyed the land, played their hand on a couple things, and those didn't work. And then they kind of just chilled on it. Right. And I'm not saying this to be against them because, like I tell people, they have all my faith, however they want to roll, I'm rolling with them. I'm just stating how it felt and what it kind of looked like. But yeah, those were the things that kind of surprised. They didn't address those, they addressed the rebounding for sure. Like you got Andre Drummond, you address that, you address your depth at true point guard potential with getting a guy like Dragic. Like he's not a combo guard. He's not going to do those things. He's going to run point. That's what he does. And they needed that. You saw that when Lonzo went down. But yeah, just not addressing that 3-point shooting and not addressing that rim protection was shocking. But I'm wondering also if it means that they looked at their roster and they just went and said, well, look, y'all got to do it. Like guys, okay, we didn't get them because we're putting our faith in you. Maybe that's part of their continuity that they're speaking about, especially with Patrick Williams who could shoot those threes, and Ayo proved he can shoot threes, and Coby is just, he's not consistent, but he can shoot in the mid 30s, when it comes to 3-point shooting. So
and Lonzo, right? Lonzo's a great.
Oh my God, but he's the best one on the team. Yeah, 42% from the field. Like So yeah, man, I'm wondering if that's the case. Why they didn't go after that, but that was the missed opportunity to me.
Yeah, well, I've got to ask because there's been a lot of discussion, debate, speculation among Bulls fans that this was another instance where Bulls ownership, the Reinsdorfs, were just being cheap and avoiding going into luxury tax by not using the full mid-level exception. Obviously, AK and Mark, they're never going to admit that, right? And neither would the Reinsdorfs, but it just seems a little too calculated in a way in which the offseason transpired. What's sort of your perspective on that?
Yeah, you kind of got to call it what it is. Like they clearly didn't want to go into the tax, like clearly, and that's what they did not want to do. I'm not super upset about it like everybody else was. Some people with, pitchforks and torches, you know what I mean, ready to burn it down for Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm like, all right, let's relax. You know what I'm saying on that? I think if it was someone to go get, if that was a star, they would have easily went into the tax. I promise you, they would have done it. I just don't think for guys that clearly don't want to go into the tax, I'm talking about the owner, clearly don't want to do it. You can't come to them and say, hey, this Isaiah Hartenstein, this guy, where's he going to play? He's coming off the bench. Is he going to help us win? I mean, he might do something. You know what I mean? He might help us do. You can't convince them. You know what I'm saying? That's the case. And the argument I was hearing, and I'm not against it, that Matt was saying was, well, you're going to have to just go into it to show that you're willing to win. You got to show these teams that you're willing to make that move. You know what I mean? Like, to go into it. That's what winning teams do. They go into it. They're not worried about the certain player who gets it over the tax. They're just trying to get in because they're trying to win.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But I completely understand why they're like, yeah, not this dude though. Like, I get it. It's okay. And addressing the needs that we talked about, one of their needs was rebounding. Huge need. They were 29th in rebounding. It was a huge need.
Yeah.
Getting Andre Drummond, who's honestly one of the greatest rebounders, period. One of the greatest rebounders we've ever seen in our life. He had more 20 rebound games last season than Hartenstein had double-digit rebound games. Yeah. Like, that's a thing. You know what I'm saying?
There's no denying that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a thing that I'm sure they looked at. So if it was somebody I think that tickled their fancy and said, yeah, we want to get this guy for sure, he's definitely going to be one of the reasons we make a deep playoff run, I think they would have convinced them that, yes, we're going to go into the tax. But you can't convince them on just another role player. Like, I don't think you can do that for the Reinsdorfs at all. Like, they want to see results for the money that they're getting. It just feels like how they operate.
Yeah, I mean, they want to see a championship team, right?
Yeah.
I think, I can't remember if it was KC or Rob they were talking about on the Bulls Talk podcast, where they were saying that at the end of the day, it's the front office's job to present to the ownership a plan for, hey, this is the reason we think that we should be going into luxury tax because we think we have a viable option of winning a championship. And kind of like you said, it's like, is Hartenstein really going to get you over the hump to actually make you a title contending team? Yeah, probably not. But I get the frustration from Bulls fans, right? Because it's like, we've seen this before. We know their history. They rarely go into the luxury tax, and so I think that's one of those things as fans. You're just like, oh, here come the Reinsdorfs again. Just go through it. So
I completely get it. Like, no, I get it. Like, and they're all right for being upset about it because of the history that you've had to deal with this foolishness. You know what I'm saying? That has happened in that front. I completely, totally understand it, man. But I'm more speaking because, again, all my faith is in AK and Eversy, and they're not dumb people. And they just seem like they know exactly what they're doing, and they know who they're working for. So they know if they're going to bring something to present to them, it has to be something that, like, look, this is a no-doubter, no-brainer. You got to do it for this guy. It can't be a kind of maybe. You know, they're not those kind of owners.
Any trades you potentially see happening before the season starts? Yeah, there are a lot of players, right, whose future maybe is a little uncertain as it relates to guys like, Donovan Mitchell, not really Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving anymore. It sounds like the Nets are going to be running it back based on the news we learned today. I'm not saying that the Bulls are going to be making any trades for these guys, but if they are, it could mean other guys on the rosters will be on the move, with the Jazz as an example, right? That's a team that's in a full-blown rebuild. So there's guys potentially there. San Antonio Spurs, another team as well. You got Jakob Poeltl, Doug McDermott, guys that maybe don't fit their timeline. What do you think would be some good options for the Bulls?
I like Jakob Poeltl a lot. I don't think he's going to be moving from the Spurs. He just feels like a Spur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To me, it doesn't seem like, he doesn't feel like he's going to be leaving. I don't think they're going to make any huge moves. I'll tell you the move I want them to make, and that's when they get to probably like game 6 or 7 and they cut Tony Bradley, and then they go sign, like, give me Melo or you give me Dwight Howard or somebody like that in his place. Because you're still missing, you're still missing a lot. You're not good enough yet, to compete with those top 3 teams in the playoffs. I'm saying regular season is a different monster, but in the playoffs in that series, I don't think they're there yet to compete with the Philly, Milwaukee, or the Boston in a 7-game series. Not yet. But I think that's the move I want to see, is them cut that weight right there. and then go get Dwight, who I wanted Dwight Howard last year. You know what I mean? I think he's a great insurance policy.
Sure.
Because I know I'm gonna get 10 points and 10 rebounds, you know what I'm saying, from him, no matter what happens. And then Carmelo Anthony, just getting another shooter and a proven one, you know, in the NBA, coming off your bench is not gonna hurt you at all. And I think that'd be a good person to have for the Bulls. Those are the two I'd like to see. I'd like to see them make those. But as far as like a trade, a big one, I think they would have to go through half the season to find out if Coby White is that deal or not. You know, if that's when I think you'll see that trade actually come about. Like, because this is the year they got to find out exactly who he is, because they clearly have a log jam at that position. You know what I'm saying, at that guard position, and Ayo's ascension definitely kind of escalated that timeline. You know what I'm saying? It definitely sped it up for sure. So, and Dalen Terry as well, you know, and I mentioned Dragic already back there. Lonzo back there, Caruso back there, and so on and so on. Like they got plenty of guards, you know what I'm saying, back there. So I think Coby is going to be interesting because they can do one of two things. While they can say if he's having a great season, they can come to that trade deadline and say, you know what, no, we're going to keep you. We're going to use you, you know, we're going to keep it going and see how far we can take it. Or they can say, you hot right now. We can make this trade for you.
High.
Exactly. We can make this trade for you right here and bring in something else that we're missing on this roster. But it just feels like AK and everything are more guys who have to see it, you know, first and want to see what it is so they can really put their finger on the pulse of it and then make the move that they want to make. So yeah, I don't see a trade coming soon or anything like that. But yeah, I would say like probably closer to the All-Star break when they know what they have. I think they'll make that decision then.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point because Coby White's trade value isn't that high right now, right?
No.
It's already been made clear, and you know they were kind of surveying what Coby's trade value was going to be around the draft, right? And there was talk about the Bulls trying to package Coby and the 18th pick once they made the selection. Obviously, it just nothing really came of it. So I think it's a pretty fair point because you're going to need to see how the season transpires, how some of these guys start playing. I mean, you can even throw Vucevic into that, right? I don't think that the Bulls should. Vucevic. I'm actually a Vuce believer, but another guy who's going to have an expiring deal. How does he show up? Does he increase his value or does he decrease his value? Like, it's just, there's so many potentials that I think could happen, but I think you're right in the sense that the roster in the way that it is right now is probably set in stone for the season. You're not really going to see any change, at least before the season happens anyway. One guy I did want to talk about, and you actually just mentioned him, was Ayo Dosunmu. And I feel like he's not talked about as often, at least in my view anyway, because I feel most people are talking about, this offseason, you're around Patrick Williams. Everyone's talking about how critical he's going to be for the Bulls this upcoming season. Zach Lavine, is he going to be back to 100%? Zach after the scope on his knee. DeMar DeRozan, can he repeat what he did last year? Dalen Terry, what's the rookie going to be able to do? Lonzo Ball, is he going to be able to start the season? You don't hear that much being talked about Ayo. Outside of Casey Johnson, the Bulls Talk podcast, where he said that Ayo's having a monster offseason. And so I guess my question is, do you think Ayo is going to be one of these underrated players or underrated guys that is going to be another crucial key to the Bulls' success in making that rookie to sophomore jump? Because we saw just how great he showed up in rising to the occasion in his rookie year when Lonzo Ball went down. People are talking about Pat making that leap. What about Ayo? Or do you actually think, is it more of hopefully if Lonzo Ball is healthy, the Bulls adding Dragic, obviously, are they going to hold on to Coby White? How much time is Ayo actually going to get? Is that going to slow his growth? What do you think is going to transpire for Ayo this season? How big of a jump do you think he's going to be making?
I expect him to make, I shouldn't say a huge leap, but I expect him to make a leap for sure. One, because he's already checked all the boxes as far as the things that I want an NBA player to be coming into the league. And I'm just talking mentally right now. He's already checked all of those boxes. He is uber confident. You know what I mean? Nothing really rattles him on the floor. He's not scared of anything.
No. He showed big moments this past season.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Huge moments, and he showed that he's a very, very, very quick learner. You know what I mean? He's a sponge, trying to soak up all the knowledge he can. I remember earlier in the year where he would go in for layups on breakaways and get them blocked. And then he stopped doing that immediately. He started dunking the basketball on people when he was going in for that. That's called learning on the fly, and not still trying to do it some other kind of way. He's like, no, I'm going to change this right now. Right now, we're gonna fix this right now. So he checks all the boxes mentally for me. Physically, and I think it's what part of what Casey was saying is this dude is my guy. Like my friend was good friend of mine said, man, Ayo came back looking like Creed. like he is in super shape right now, and he is a gym rat. You know, when you've got that right kind of mentality and you got that chip on your shoulder like he does, you know, you can't do anything but get better because he's not leaving the gym. You've seen his body. He's not leaving the gym. I just talked about how good his IQ is. The only thing left to do is get better, you know, because you're putting in the time and you're putting in the work. And so I'm watching him get better with his handles because that was the one thing I saw him doing is working on his handles and getting that better and getting that together because, again, that will keep him on the floor because you saw how the Bulls used him from game one. He was more of a floater. You know, he was playing basically three positions. When they would play small ball, you know, they could cheat with him, you know what I'm saying, at the three sometimes. And when you have Caruso and Lonzo out there, you know, they would cheat with him and he would be guarding, you know what I'm saying, probably third best player. And then he was causing havoc, supreme havoc, you know, on that third best player. And then, you know, when he was out there guarding the best player, he was locking them up too, as Trae Young. Like my friend Christian from Madhouse on Madison has the stat that he put out where he was showing what players were doing against Ayo Dosunmu as far as their shooting splits were looking like against Ayo. And it was an atrocity of what Ayo was doing to these guys. And it was from Tatum to Bradley Beal, you know what I mean, to Trae Young. Like it was, you know, the good players that you could think of in this league were struggling. Darius Garland, oh my goodness, had him in jail. Like it was crazy what he was doing to these guys. And it's a rookie. Like you immediately forgot he was a rookie just because of not how he played, but just how he was carrying himself, you know, and just how his mentality was out there. That when he's not afraid to go up to a teammate and tell him, hey, chill. Like you saw him do that, like to DeMar DeRozan for God's sakes. Hey man, chill out. You know what I'm saying? Let me talk to you for a second. Like you saw him doing that. So I expect that leap because he knows he looks and he sees Dragic has been brought in here, you know, because they want some, you know, better point guardsmanship, which is my favorite word. They want better point guardsmanship. And that's why Dragic, you know, came here. Ayo, I'm hoping he takes it personally. I really does. Yeah. And I really do, excuse me. And I think that's what he's going to do. He's just working on his handles, getting better as a point guard. He was already a good point guard. He has an award in college to say I was the best point guard in the nation. Right. So he could definitely play the position. But he struggled a little bit with it in the half court. Right. When he was here with the Bulls, but transition, he was great. Pick and roll, he was awesome, you know, in those things. He was getting Vooch so many easy buckets in that pick and roll. So yeah, I think that's the things he's working on. And it's great to hear Casey say, you know, he's having that monster off season because that just means for me, he's just gonna be better, and that just means better things for the Bulls.
So then I gotta ask, and maybe it is Ayo, who do you think is going to be the biggest surprise player for this upcoming season for the Bulls?
Oh, Patrick Williams.
So?
yeah, Patrick Williams, man. Like I'm in. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so funny because I think a lot of Bull fans are scared. You know what I'm saying? To go all in on Patrick Williams. They want to. They really do. They want to go, and I am too. I've been burned before. Hello, Larry Marketing. I've been burned. I've been burned before. I've been hurt and I've been scolded before. But I'm going in this one with both eyes open on this one. You know, I'm not just watching certain games and then like, that's it, he's done, he's the best. You know, I'm not doing it that way. I'm just watching how he's working. And again, I value the work, you know, that people put in. And he's another gym rat. He's another dude that does not leave the gym. That's all he wants to do is play basketball, period, and get better and better and better. And all I see is him getting better. That's all I see. The fact he has a little handle now, you know, the fact that he's confident when I'm seeing him take these shots, the little one-hand push shot that he's been working on, that he's gotten together is a thing also. We saw flashes of it last year. We saw flashes of his rookie year of him being a good player. And we got robbed of it because of the injury. And now coming into this year, I think his mental is better than it's been in those 2 years. And his physical, obviously, you see it. You know what I mean? Just physically imposing basketball player. And he's coming in being basically the fourth option in the starting five. You know, you can argue that he's the fifth option, you know, in the starting five. So you're not gonna get the best defender on you. You know what I mean? That goes to DeMar. That's going to Zach.
Yeah.
You know, so you're gonna get wide open looks. And one thing he was doing was hitting his 3-point shots. Like his 3-point percentages were pretty damn good. He wasn't taking tons of them, but yeah, he was hitting them, and he's gonna get those open looks for sure. Because if you remember in games last year, that's what he was doing. He was getting those open looks in 3 and draining them. I remember that Clippers game offhand, where he was hitting those big 3-point shots to give the Bulls that victory. And that DeMar DeRozan 50-point game. He did it in the playoffs. You know, he was doing it there as well. So I think it's his time for the confidence and everything to click. And I think he's going to surprise some Bulls fans this season, man, with how good he's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I really want to see from Patrick Williams, just because he is going to be so crucial for the Bulls this year and their success, is I also need to see the defensive end as well, right? Because you're also talking about rim protection and how the Bulls didn't address rim protection. If you were to see Patrick elevate his game to even also becoming a rim protector, right? Because everyone talks about how he has this insane two-way potential.
Yeah.
He was also able to be a rim protector for the Bulls and also be able to provide, you know, some offensive, you know, firepower, even just 12 to 14 points per game. That's huge for this Bulls team because people forget he was out most of the season, right?
Yes.
And the Bulls were the number 1 seed, right? Until Lonzo Ball got injured. So I think his rise, that jump, that leap that he could potentially make from second year to third year is going to be so crucial for the Bulls. Yeah. And I just hope everyone stays healthy, man. That's my biggest thing is we need this crew to stay healthy. Big Dave, I'll get you out of here on this one. And it's probably a way too early prediction question, especially we don't even know for sure if the roster is set in stone, but how do you see the Bulls stacking up in the Eastern Conference? Where do you see them finishing, assuming this roster, you know, what we know right now is going to be the roster going into the season?
Best case scenario, if everything goes right and the health, knock on wood, and everything is great, I got them at a 4 seed. If all that goes perfectly. Okay. Reality, I got them number 5. I think first, as I keep saying, I'm not worried about the first 3 teams. They ain't got nothing for that. All right. Like, you're not there. You're not at that level. People want to say, oh man, well, Philly ain't that good. They've never beat them. All right. Like, Joel Embiid has never
they've never beat Joel Embiid ever.
Never. He's never lost. He's LeVar Ball out here. He's never lost. All right. To the Chicago Bulls. So I can't, I got to see it first for me to start believing, but that's a good basketball team over there with an inspired James Harden, and with PJ Tucker and who's young man, Maxey. Oh my gosh, man. Tyrese Maxey. My goodness, man. And then Tobias Harris, who's always the forgotten man. You know what I'm saying? On that, he can drop 30 on you as well. So that team, and they play defense. I mean, Thibault also out there, and then the Bulls killer freaking Korkmaz for some reason. I mean, that team is a good team. I don't think they're gonna have anything for those 3. Yeah. Outside of them 3, is nobody I'm really scared of. Yeah. Miami is taking a step, in my opinion. They're taking a step back. They haven't made that big splash move that we're used to seeing them make. They actually lost, you know what I'm saying, PJ Tucker, who I just mentioned. I think that's a big loss for them. And now you're even more dependent on Gabe Vincent, on Duncan Robinson, on Max Strus. And I will take my, you know what I'm saying, I will take my chances against those guys having those kind of years that they put up last year. I'll take my chances on it. We'll see. And Duncan did not have a good year, you know, to the point where he lost his job pretty much. He got demoted to the bench. So we'll see what that is. And we'll see if Tyler Hero can get it together again and provide Jimmy Butler with what he needs around him for them to be successful. But Bam is one I'm not worried about. Bam is going to be fine. He's awesome. Yeah. But I'm not afraid of them. There's nobody else I'm afraid of. Toronto, when people always mention to me Toronto, Atlanta also, and Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And every time I'm like, you know, the Bulls are like 9-3 against them teams last year, right? Like they were 3-1 against all of them. Like they ran through them. Like we struggled against the top teams. Like it was people on our level like that. No, I'm not saying those teams didn't get better because they clearly did. You know, Toronto definitely got better, but they still don't have a point guard. It's still just Van Fleet and that's it. And they don't have a point guard. That's why the Bulls were whooping them too, because the Bulls are stacked in that backcourt. Right. When it comes to Atlanta, getting DeJounte Murray is huge. You know what I'm saying? Like that's colossal. Now you got a real big 3 right there. You brought Trae Young, you brought the Collins, and you rock into DeJounte. Like, that's serious business right there. Throw Clint Capella in there, Bogdanovich in it, like whoever you want to throw in there. You know what I mean? Like, they're stacked. They have a bunch of those guys. But again, they don't play defense, and the guy who played defense was DeJounte Murray. I got something for him too. Again, my backcourt is stacked when it comes to defense. So again, I'm not worried about them either. And Cleveland, I just think it's too young still. You know what I mean? Like, they're still learning on the fly. They're imposing, no doubt about it. Mobley is for real, and Garland is for real. All right. I'm interested to see what they do getting Ricky Rubio back healthy, because he was a big piece for them. And he was playing really great for them, man, when he went down. So that should be interesting watching that as well. But I just think they're too young, and they just don't scare me either. And Jared Allen too. I really like Jared Allen, but they just don't put that fear in me. The Nets, who are the wild card of the whole Eastern Conference.
Going to mention, what about Brooklyn now that we know that he's going to be staying?
Yeah, they're the wild card of the whole Eastern Conference, honestly. They can be anywhere from 1 to 9. Honestly, they are a wild card, man. But you got a big three of Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, and Kyrie Irving. That's serious, all right? But then behind that, you're like, okay, well, what you got? Because we literally have 2 of your players on our team now.
Yeah.
So, what do you got? Curry, you got Claxton, you know what I'm saying, who's good also. Hopefully Joe Harris, can be healthy for them this season. So, I mean, they've got some guys, but again, none of that scares me. None of it scares me, because the Bulls was beating them with Harden was there. Winning in those games in Brooklyn. So they don't truly, put that fear in me. Of course, Kevin Durant does, because it's Kevin Durant. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm not worried. I already put in pen that he's going to have 30. Like, I already know that's going to go down that way. Yeah. But it's more so now on what are we going to get from Ben Simmons? What that's going to be interesting. I don't even know what kind of matchup that's going to look like. I'm excited to see what that's going to look like, but they don't put that fear in me for the Chicago Bulls. So taking all that into consideration, and just factoring in the Bulls were good last year. People forget that, Maul. Like, they really do forget the Bulls were good, man. Barring that second half of the season where they went 8-15. And that was pretty much injury. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a lack of just them being bad or anything like that. I'm sorry, it wasn't attributed to them just being a bad basketball team or anything like that. They were hurt. Like, the guys were hurt. Like, that's just what it was. Zach Lavine was hurt. Caruso gone. Like, they were missing Lonzo Ball. Like, the backcourt I mentioned was out of there. You're just depending on Ayo, you know what I mean, and my man Matt Thomas. And when you're depending on Matty Legend, of course, you're dependent on him. Like, it ain't gonna work. Oh no, if you're dependent on that to win, you're gonna have problems. That's just it. You know what I mean? We all know who the legend is. So that's been wiped away right now, because the season hasn't begun and they're in full health right now. So if I'm arguing from full health standards going up against the East, Bulls have the defense and the Bulls have the offense. A 17-11 from Vooch is going to be great if Patrick Williams is the one getting you 15 points also. Absolutely. That 17-11 is going to look amazing. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man. And again, this is all banking on Patrick Williams too, coming up to that level that I think he's going to be on. So him elevating, Ayo elevating. I think they got that 5 seed.
And do you think they can get out of the first round this year?
That I don't know. That I'm not sure of at all. If we're fighting against Miami or Toronto or who in that 4 seed, then yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bulls. But I can't give you anything outside of a heart pick right now, because I haven't seen it. You know what I mean? Yet, and my heart is always gonna be Bulls, so I'm gonna be biased on that sense. But yeah, man, like if they get in that 4 or 5 and they can avoid Philly, Milwaukee, and Boston in the first round, I'll take my chances with whoever in that first round. And yeah, I think the Bulls, I'm glad they took the ass whooping they took last year. And I was very happy about it, Maul, because I told people over and I was like, listen, guys, it's going to be an ass whooping. Like, get ready for it. Like, it's coming, but it's necessary. They've got to get this experience. You know what I mean? They've got to have, Patrick had to have that. Coby had to see this. Ayo had to go through it. Got to develop a hunger. to go out there.
And Lonzo as well, never gone to the playoffs, right? I mean, no, Lonzo didn't play, but two other guys that have never been to the postseason before. So
mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? Those guys have been in the league a while, never been, man. So putting that taste in their mouth, making them hungry, you know what I'm saying? Making them want it even more was very, very important to lose how they lost. And I'm sure they don't want to feel that feeling ever again. And I hope it stays with them and they continue it all into this season, man. So, and finally, just
don't want it either. We don't want that feeling.
we don't want it either. But just to say this, finally, like, I'm excited to watch Bulls because for the first time in I don't know how long, bro, I get to watch back-to-back seasons of good Bulls basketball.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a long time.
That's true.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Big Dave, brother. Appreciate it as always, you making the time. It's always great talking Bulls basketball with you. Keep up the great work on CHGO. Love the content that you guys have been putting out.
Thank you, man.
Hope you're able to enjoy some time off during the off season. And looking forward to connecting during the season as well.
Yeah, man. We'll connect during the season, bro. We'll do this again, man. It's always great talking to you, bro.